Right, well, several newspapers for us to delve into, to plunge into this morning. And Mama V is here.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I am well, by God's grace. Well, if you had added maybe like some 2 more days, that would have been fantastic. But I'll manage with what I have.
Yeah, no.
What you need is you need a warm bath. You need a nice cologne in the water. And
a nice
good
what?
Cologne. And then a good bath in jail.
Okay, I'm not sure you're talking to me right now, but I left you guys just for a day. And what did you guys do?
Well,
distribute expired products?
Oh. No, that was done on our behalf.
It was a mistake by somebody who was supposed to have been responsible before the vice president got there. I think that people have been put in positions of trust, and we don't expect the vice president who is going to donate to be inspecting the expiry date of goods.
Oh, but the minority expects that.
No, I think that in reality that's the politics of it. And
I don't know whether,
be realistic with I don't know why even the press conference was put together by the minority.
Well, I mean, they've got to do something, haven't they?
You have to take advantage of every situation.
I know.
But once it works in your favor.
But you know, it's funny. When this thing happened, and then everybody started talking about it, and all of a sudden, some other members of the minority said, you are intentionally using this story to divert from Star Times. But you are the ones pushing it. It's amusing. And you know, this insistence that the vice president should have checked. Is that what the late beloved Emisata was doing before he donates things? Did he check expiry dates?
I'm not sure.
Was that what he did?
Yeah.
So why?
I think it's, you know, this is something that happened, and we're mixing it with politics. So we have to.
But it speaks.
But that's the kind of times that we're in. Right?
But in reality, it speaks about the broader picture of people who are expected to undertake their roles in such a way that it doesn't affect other people. And we have people who have been given positions in public office. They're supposed to be proactive and not reactive. And we all know as media people, when we've been around events where politicians are, and their appointees, so to speak, who are their subordinates or down the ladder, tend to become all agile because they've seen the appointing authority or the express friends and the colleagues of the appointing authority and try to do many other things. But I also monitored the speech of the president at the UN, and I thought it was the second time the president also was giving, or the third time he was giving a speech of great repute and content. You know, he had that like forum in Senegal Africa or somewhere where he was talking about education, and also had an interaction with Macron. We had it. He also
talked about China.
Yeah, all that.
And the relationship
then now
that
we have
Africa
China,
has with China.
And you know, and I think that when he gets there, he's able to articulate.
And I've got to say something.
It reminds me of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, I mean, let's go through the headlines first, and then I'll tell you how the president has adjusted my perspective about some aspect of our relationship with China.
Did you guys also listen to Martin Amidu?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think he's beginning to
purposeful lamentation.
No, I think he's beginning to sound like a broken record.
I'm not a magician.
I don't think so. I don't think so. We've got lots of expectations of from him in particular in that office, and he has to tell us. I think he has the responsibility to tell us how things are at any point in time, and he's telling us he doesn't have any legislation to work with. He doesn't have resources, just like the other institutions that we've set up to fight corruption. And the president has very good intention. The president allows him, but the people that he has to get information from doesn't come.
So let me ask you this: you think it's a broken record, but do other heads of state institutions that are being starved for funds? Do they actually come up and speak up about it so that we can be aware that the institution that we want to be working for us is being crippled? Do they do that?
No. They don't do that as,
and that's their duty. That's
strongly and as often as Martin Amidu has done.
It's a public office.
Yes, and if you need something to be done, you need to talk about it until it's done. That's why our job is to be broken records.
So hopefully the papers would report on that, and we'll get to talk some more. But let's look at the headlines.
Sure. Okay. I'll start with the Business Finder banner headline: President justifies huge China loans for projects. He says new ways needed as existing methods are not working. And let's see, Daily Graphic. That's the only headline, by the way, on the Business Finder's front page. Makes my life easier. Daily Graphic has these. China-Africa relations, it's not colonialism. President tells UN General Assembly. I still maintain that it could become colonialism if we don't handle it well. But there is an aspect of the president's philosophy that I now understand. I'll explain it later. Also, local banks will bounce back, according to Asiedu Mante. Obinim and 2 others fined 12,000 Ghana cedis for flogging. And Melania Trump visits Ghana next week.
What is she coming to do?
Oh.
Coming to take or coming to give?
She's the first lady of the United States.
Mr. Trump has already said what he wants to say about Africa.
But have you noticed that Melania Trump makes an effort to often go the opposite way from what her husband says and does? So her husband trolls people on social media, and she starts a foundation to support people who are being trolled on social media. Her husband says we are S-hole countries, and she pays us a visit. So I don't know, maybe she's trying to tell you something.
I don't know. I think from listening to certain comments, she's probably here to learn, because she hasn't been to Africa before. So maybe this is an educational trip. At least that's what some people say.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. I'm not sure we need that. In fact, it's not like I'm not even sure. We don't need that where we've got into right now.
But even I think that first ladies around the world, even for the United States of America first lady, they all have their limitations. I think the visits of these first ladies over the years have always just been more of creating that cordial relationship between the countries than just saying, because they have no powers. They have no powers really to say that we're going to increase multilateral donation.
So that's why I'm saying that this is.
First ladies do have a certain ability to further diplomatic relations, but also to assist in specific projects in both countries. So some people do benefit from the work that first ladies do, and if she does any of that work while here, hopefully there might be some beneficiaries.
Well.
But let's continue with the headlines. Daily Graphic on the back page has Ghana UNOPS sign agreement to deliver 100,000 housing units. That's the United Nations Office for Project Services, and I think that's me. I'm done.
Okay, so let me look at the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's chart a new course. Nana tells UN. There's a picture there of President Akufo-Addo welcoming Gret Farimo, while Frida Prempe and Vitali Van Shelbom, Deputy Executive Director UNOPS, looking on. Ghana gets $5 billion US housing deal. Men's Gold customers in trouble. Bishop Obinim convicted, and then we have Collins Dawda charged. Those are the stories we have on the back page, though. No sports. We'll never give up the DIU, and we're party not bothered by change in position. And then there's a rejoinder on that statement. China, Cape Coast Stadium, disaster waiting to happen. That statement from Dr. Nimoy Thompson. We have the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Latest on the Men's Gold saga is on page 11. JDM revealed some reasons for NDC's defeat, is on the back page of the paper, the Daily Dispatch newspaper. And then we have one Ghanaians forced a Chinese man, not his driver, to carry his own feces. There's a video on social media. They caught him easing. I mean, before China became what it is today, it used to do pretty much the same things that larger sections of our population used to do.
So they made him do what?
They said they made him carry his feces. I haven't fully watched that video. I've seen it on WhatsApp
Carry it
platform.
How? Like a baby or on his head?
Full text of Akufo-Addo's speech at the UN. I think you got to read it. Yesterday I had the snippet of it, or all this text sent to me.
He's always been a great speaker,
by a good friend, and full text of Akufo-Addo's speech at the UN. It's the third time I'm loving this speech. Yeah, he speaks well. All right.
Let's do the Ghanaian Times and the Business and Financial Times. Ghanaian Times first, front page of the paper. At the UN General Assembly, aid, charity not working for us. President raps global leaders. Cocoa board to cut down 700,000 hectares of diseased cocoa trees. Police grants Collins Dawda bail. Government trains 191 mining guards. And on the back page of the paper, government to open bidding for new oil blocks. And Takwa residents demonstrates over bad roads. There's some kind of conversation going on with this action. We'll talk about that when we dig into the papers proper. But let's do the Business and Financial Times newspaper front page. Savings and loans firms are next, according to the Bank of Ghana. Our museums are a national disgrace. Details of this
do we have
in
any
the paper.
Now?
Government considers single product industrial enclaves. Back page, government to approve downstream petroleum policy. Cocoa Board confident of 1 million metric tons. So that's by way of headlines in terms of what is on the front back pages of the various newspapers. Time for us to pick some stories of interest.
Okay.
And where shall we begin?
Well, the president spoke yesterday at the UN General Assembly. And guys, I've got to say, I am a new convert to the philosophy.
Who spoke to you? Is it after the speech or somebody spoke to you?
The president
Philosophy
himself.
behind?
The philosophy behind Ghana's desire to do so much more with China.
Oh.
And it's not just about doing more with China, but actually it's about copying how China developed. That's what is at the core of this relationship. So how did China develop? Well, many, many years ago, China was a British colony. And they had a port called Hong Kong, which was leased out to the British for 99 years. Okay, so that was, proper colonialism. They leased the thing to them for some coins. At the end of 99 years, Hong Kong was returned to China. But this was just one example of the many ways in which China, not having anything, not being able to do anything, relied heavily on infrastructure from the West. They came and built railways and all kinds of things in their country. And at the time, there was a heavy cost to the people of China. They had to give up a lot in order to obtain what they wanted. But they kept diligently obtaining until the point where they had enough infrastructure, they had an education level. For a nation whose population is 1/3 of the world, it took a long time for them to get everything needed in order for that country to operate and function well on its own, to the point where now they are lending to the countries that came to develop them. So there is a certain long-term vision behind getting the infrastructure, getting it, because we can't do it ourselves. We don't have the wherewithal to do it ourselves. So acquiring it from somewhere, it doesn't have to be China, but getting it done now so that we can take our time, clear the debt, and become a nation that can hold its own. The philosophy is brilliant. And I've got to say, I didn't agree with it to begin with, but hearing the president explain it has made me a convert to the philosophy.
Okay.
But I am still skeptical about the delivery of it, about the details. You see, anytime I ask the government to show me a document and they don't, I worry. So when I say I want to see the details of the agreement between Ghana and China for example, the enhancing the digital, the DTT system, and the ministry says no, I worry. Because I wonder what you are hiding from me. What is that you have agreed to that you think I will not be happy about? Besides, this thing that we are talking about, this colonialism that we are concerned about, is actually happening in other countries that created a financial relationship with China and did not live up to their side of the bargain. So shouldn't we know what our side of the bargain is, so that we can know what we must do to live up to it, to ensure that we don't end up giving up state resources, Zambia's power,
but
supply.
You think we don't know?
But I don't
it's
know.
in
Do
the
you
documents.
Know? Yes, but
no,
they won't
as in
show
the
it to
people
us.
who sign it.
But please, Mama B, in Africa, the reason why Africa is attractive to China is because leaders in Africa don't feel compelled to account for their activities. There is no compelling reason to account for what they do. So they can make decisions that benefit them and not the people. Okay? They can make decisions that give them what they want, but not give the people what we want. You see, and that's the reason why they must show us what they've agreed to. Usually it's better for us to know even before you agree, so that if we are not we don't want it, we can speak up and have our representatives, check it.
Well.
But anyway,
when it comes to the push, you can go to courts and get them to give you what you want.
Why should it be so? You're doing it on my behalf.
I think that the reason why
I sue you before I know what.
I think the reason why we're talking about China today is because of leadership, and so if we have the right leadership, and the president has taken the bold step with his I think the most prudent team that he has, to take the leadership to go and have a certain relationship with China. And you have recounted where China has come from and where they are today. I say that China is successful because of leadership. But they are successful because the leadership decided to be one. And not only one, because they belong to only one entity. Mm-hmm. It's a communist party.
Yeah.
It's the same. We have a situation where we have MPP, NDC, DPP, DDD, ABCD. So if we know that is where we're coming from, we need to work from home. Because we're not going to have the MPP going to be in power forever. I'm sure one day it's going to change. So the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is starting a very good thing. We all need the money. 100 years from now, I would want my children to look back and say, well, whilst my daddy may have died 30 years before then, etc., well, this is what the 100 billion that they are going to pay for was used for. So we need to have a plan that has the buy-in of everybody in terms of all the groupings we have in the political space, in the social space, in the cultural space.
Have we been even able to agree on a national plan, a long-term plan?
That's the problem. So, for example, if we go and take the 50 billion, the president has a good innovation, he has an idea. When he leaves this earth, all his people have left. Who is going to carry it on? It's never going to be maybe only an MPP government. It's going to be another government. It could be even another political party. And that's what other countries that have developed have done differently. You know, China, we used to watch China in the 90s. They used to ride only bicycles on the roads. We used to laugh.
Yeah.
It was a bit funny.
You know, and ride bicycles.
Apart from Bruce Lee, apart from Jackie Chan, Jet Li, we thought China was all known for bad goods. But now it has changed. So
Indeed.
we can achieve it.
And
only
you see,
if
you're
we
right
have the
about the
buy-in.
implementation of this. Look, this is the problem. This is what I still have a problem with. The hypocrisy of our lack of planning. You know, this government came along and said a 40-year development plan is too long. Let's bring it down to just 7 years. Yet you are willing to borrow for 100 years.
Well,
it's things
no
like
matter,
that.
that's what we've identified, that we need a certain buy-in. Okay, Mama, you want?
I wanted us to look at this story on the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, a story that we've also extensively reported on. Takwa residents demonstrating over bad roads. Members of the Takwa Apinto Divisional Council and some residents of the area yesterday morning blocked the main road linking Takwa and Takoradi to protest against the deteriorating nature of the highway and other roads within the municipality. So as early, and we've got the visual, so we will be rolling it as and when, as early as 6 a.m., the demonstrators assembled at the Anglo Gold Idiaprim mine junction on the highway and blocked the road, thus creating a traffic jam. Clad in red and black bands on their heads and hands, the chiefs and the youth sang and danced, bent tires and blocked the road with wood to register their displeasure over the state of roads in the area. I'm just going to cut it short here, but we've seen what they've done.
Yeah,
and
what
some are saying that is
the citizens taking an action.
That is direct disregard to the law, the Public Order Acts, and we should all be condemning it.
Yeah, but we condemn the act. But the thing is that, you know, sometimes when somebody has something to the rafters, has accommodated something to the roof, sometimes they get to explode. And, you know, during the week I talked about how we need to pick up signs. The intelligence community we have in our country, the intelligence agents need to pick up some of these signs. And they need to make sure that they coil it from that angle. Two, if you know you have given a certain political promise to the people, you have to fulfill it. If you can't fulfill it, communicate to them. And we're talking this week about how the vice president went on and on until the president came in when he went to the US to say, look, I know we've got difficulties, but it's not a crisis situation. We'll get out of it. It leaves everybody thinking that, oh yeah, you acknowledge that what you say you would do, you've not been able to do. And that is what we want. And Kojo talked about, is it political communication, you said? If we have it right, this wouldn't happen.
We recorded a bloody accident on the stretch not too long ago. I think it was last week or so. We lost very young
The president
children.
has an appointee there who should be an MC or whichever. And he has to go speak to the people. If you can't, you get a higher authority to go and consult with the people and say, please, it will be done by this time. Because we all know what the country is going through.
So this is where we are with this. And I think it's also very important because there were chiefs at the
instigating it.
Exactly. You know that's really important.
That's very unique. You're right about that. You know, is that the traditional leaders felt they had to step up and speak to political power. You know, and I was a bit disappointed to hear the Minister for Mines telling them, I mean, his only response was, "It's not my responsibility." Dear God.
Well, he was caught up in the midst of this because he was on a tour.
Yeah, but you see, political communication.
Yes.
You know, you are part of a team.
Yeah. So you
that is leading this country. How dare you tell me that it's not your responsibility? The very least responsibility you have is to go back and communicate to the team
because
at
any point in time you are a representative of the government.
Absolutely. You have come there because of our minerals, right? That's why you are in our region. Fix our road. Don't tell us it's not your responsibility.
All right.
Look, the president went to speak to miners and complained to them that mining companies, the international ones, that they've been mining our resources for so many years and haven't fixed the infrastructure in those cities. But the president had forgotten that mining only became a private enterprise perhaps at the beginning of the Fourth Republic, in the 90s, right? Or maybe beginning of, during PNDC, just before the Fourth Republic.
Illegal mining?
No, legal, large-scale mining. It was done by government until the beginning of the Fourth Republic.
Largely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Government have been mining for over a century and have done nothing to develop Takwa. Government. So if, President, you go and stand in front of the private company that has only been there for a couple of decades and tell them it's their responsibility, are you being fair? And then your representative is there, they say, fix the roads for us, and you say, it's not my job. How dare you?
We have to do the online.
That was not respectful.
Okay, we have to go because this story about the museums in the Business and Financial Times, but let's go to myjoyonline.com. $2 billion Sino Hydro deal, not loan agreements. So there's confirmation. Can we open the story up a bit, Fred? If that's the only one we will do on My Joy Online, that's fine, because this has been a big deal. We know that the minority in Parliament got in contact with the IMF, and this is it on myjoyonline.com. So let's read a bit of it. It says the minority MPs had written to the International Monetary Fund with a copy of the World Bank, a copy to the World Bank to stop the deal on grounds that it is, quote, unquote, illegal. The IMF now thinks the $2 billion Sino Hydro agreement with Ghana cannot be classified as a loan. Documents cited by Joy Business has revealed the IMF formed this preliminary review on the master project support agreements after it concluded its mission visit to Ghana recently. Sources say this position, the fund is based on Ghana's debt limits under the country's current program with the IMF. Meanwhile, Joy Business is also learning that the deferred payments agreement for individual projects could constitute a debt to the extent that they are signed with a government guarantee. So there you have it. Joy Business reporting this day that the IMF is saying that that $2 billion deal with a Chinese company, it is not a loan, the bauxite deal.
That's what our sources are telling us. I myself have a source who was in that meeting.
It's butter.
So, yes, that's what they're saying.
Butter and bread.
I myself have a source that was at that meeting. Someone who works for one of the international organizations in Ghana. And she tells me that...
It's a woman?
Yes. She tells me that the IMF have a big problem with free SHS.
Yeah.
They are asking the government why. That it's not sustainable. The funding of this thing on an ongoing basis is not sustainable. So how is it going to be done? They are concerned. They want to know how the government intends to do it. All right.
So
I thought we could talk about men's go, but we can't.
Yeah, another time. It's time now for sports, though. The team is ready. They're poised, and they're next.
Barcelona lost Real
They did,
Madrid
yeah.
also lost.
Real
They
Madrid.
couldn't
If they had
go
won, they would have
over
gone up.
Barcelona.
Yeah.
Details of that, if you missed the goals, Benedict will show it all over to you
Yeah.
right after this.